Yeah, you can hear me. Great. Great. You can hear me in the hall, okay? Excellent. Yeah, just give me a like this if you need me to speak up a little bit more. So we'll begin with the chant on page 26 of the chant book. Five subjects for frequent recollection. Here we go. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, relating to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. Thus we should frequently recollect. Finding a comfortable enough posture for the body for sitting for the next 30 minutes or so. Inviting a quality of ease. To fill the body, mind, heart. And resting into awareness of the body. In the most easeful way possible, just feeling what it's like to have a body. Trusting whatever is here to feel is here lawfully. A force of nature. And so there's no reason to reject or try to control anything that we feel. We accept this as life moving through us. The result of past causes and conditions expressing itself in the present moment. The sensation, this warmth, this coolness, this movement of energy, this emotion. We're learning to be sensitive, to be courageous in the face of the sensitivity, with wisdom as a great support. This is just nature, nature moving, not mine, not something I own. No need to appropriate it. We can only relax because we understand this to some extent. And once we've relaxed and felt what's here to be felt, the heart naturally responds, participates in the most skillful way we can. And only after it's felt do we have a sense of what kind of participation is skillful. What does it mean to have a heart? What kind of participation is needed when this heart knows love and wisdom in this moment? What does it look like to participate with a heart full of love? A heart that's spacious, wise, clear, and full of love. What is that like to practice, to participate in this moment? Not in some preferred moment, some better reality that we can imagine, something that doesn't exist here and now. What's it like to participate with a heart full of love and wisdom right now? Let's continue in silence. Free to take a minute to stretch your legs if you'd like. Hey Lisa, can we turn the fan, the blower on from auto to on? I know the fan competes with the sound of my voice a little bit, so I'll be conscious of speaking up. It just helps with circulation in the room. It's good to see such a big crowd here today. Yeah, it's good to be back with you all. I've been away for almost 7 weeks teaching at Insight Meditation Society, where Mark was also teaching on the campus, but at the Forest Refuge. And I know that many of you are coming here with concerns about Mark, and so I just wanted to thank you for all of that, all of the love that you've offered him and the community over the past week or so. And if you didn't know, Mark is sick. He's ill. He has a fairly serious autoimmune condition, and he was in the hospital for about 9 or 10 days when we were teaching together, which was, we don't usually leave at the same time, and we did this time, and it was kind of nice because I was so close and I could travel to see him in the hospital almost every day, and we talked quite a lot. And now that he's back here, he did come home on Tuesday. Meg Brandolin, who is a community member here and a doctor friend, she flew out and spent a few days there. And then Wynn Fricky, who is the co-founder of Common Ground and Mark's beloved, Meg and Wynn accompanied Mark so he could come home, which is great. So he's here now, and he is getting really good care at a particular rheumatology clinic at the U of M. And he is in great spirits, very happy, very full of metta and gratitude for all the love and support and all the good medical care he got in Massachusetts and also here. It'll take his body some time to build some strength. So he was planning on being on retreat in December, and he'll be doing some of that, but also doing medical appointments and healing at home. So he's still planning on teaching the year-end retreat with Wynn and I, and we expect that he'll be back to some teaching in January. We don't know what that will look like yet. He's immune compromised and will remain immune compromised for a while. The medicine that he's taking and just the condition itself. So Mark and I will be figuring that out together, how he will teach, and some of that, maybe all of that will be virtually, but we'll see how he does over the next couple of weeks and months ahead. But just wanted you to know he's really getting good care. He's in tremendous spirits. I've never seen him more loving than he has been. Yeah, it's just great. So, and there's a Caring Bridge site set up for him that we'll use. Mark and Wynn mostly will be posting there to keep the community updated on how he's doing. And there are a couple of posts there now, so if you Google Caring Bridge and his name, you'll find it. And you can go there, and we'll probably make another post on Monday or Tuesday of this week with another health update. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to echo the words of Nancy Bowler, our bookkeeper and yoga teacher here, she said the best way to appreciate Mark right now is to keep practicing. To appreciate Mark and all of our teachers is to keep practicing what they've taught, right? So if you want the number one way to support Mark is just to keep doing that. And right now their needs are cared. They have good family in town and they have everything they need. So if that changes, we'll let people know. But right now they're in good hands. Onward. So I want to give a talk today, or share my reflections about the Noble Eightfold Path and what feels like to me the essential component of the Buddhist teachings and the Noble Eightfold Path is this willingness, or our courageous response, and our willingness to be sensitive and intimate with the way things are. There's a quote hanging on the bulletin board in the teacher's office, or something I scribbled on the whiteboard actually, a reminder to myself, peace through understanding, not control. Tall order. Probably for all of us. Yeah. But a good reminder, because the way in which our habit energy, the way in which we respond most of the time, is to try to get what we want, right? We want to control things. We want to have some idea, some predictable way of doing our life, and we want to keep relying on that over and over and over again, right? And when there's something that kind of shakes us out of those habits, it's startling to us. And no matter how long you've been practicing, this is true, right? And this practice we come to is for deluded people, not for enlightened ones. And so we should be seeing this, if we're practicing, if we're really being sincere, we should be seeing this play out all the time. Oh, look at that, sweetie, looking for some kind of ground to stand on, some predictable, reliable, fixed way of imagining my life, or doing my life, or imagining the world, or engaging in the world. And yet, wait a second, it's not like that, is it? And Mark's health challenges is one way of waking us up to that, right? I mean, I noticed in my own heart, like, wait a second, you weren't that sick. I just talked to you. And yet, you know, the mind is like imagining some kind of reality that is not even there. Like all of us, we have some degree of health, and we have some understanding of our bodies, and yet things change at any moment, right? And even if we've been practicing a long time, I was just teaching a retreat, but practicing quite a lot while I was teaching a retreat, and I noticed this, all the time, and with people who were practicing for 6 weeks. Some people have been there for 3 months, right? This is just like the air we breathe. It's how we move about. There's a widely quoted scripture about spiritual friendship. The part that's quoted quite a lot is the part in which the Buddha told his attendant Ananda. Ananda came to the Buddha and said something like, spiritual friendship, it's half of the holy life. And the Buddha said, no, it's not like that. Actually, it's all of the holy life, right? And that's the part that we hear a lot about. But in that scripture, what he was really saying is it's all of the holy life, because when we are in relationship with one another, the whole of the path illuminates for us, right? We find ourselves on the path because of relationality. Yeah. And so what teachers do for us, which the Buddha considered himself a spiritual friend, and what we do for each other is to convey in our embodied action, response, our words, and just our beingness, what it's like to be sensitive, right? And to be sensitive all the way through our lives. And so the Buddha's offering, which I feel like is such a generous offering of this path, is a complete and integrated way of practicing wisdom and love, of practicing developing a sensitive heart that meets us in every moment, that illuminates the ways in which we're caught, and offers us a kind of participation in our lives that's sustaining, that's supportive, that aligns with our deepest values. There's another place in which the Buddha holds up a handful of leaves, and he asks folks, like, what's more, the leaves in the forest or the leaves in my hands? And of course they say, well, the leaves in the forest are more. And he says, something like, in the same way, what I've learned on my journey as a student here is like the leaves in the forest, but what I teach is like the leaves in my hand, right? because all the things we need to know, we can summarize in a very concise and perhaps simple way, and that is where he talked about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. So we find the Noble Eightfold Path, this path of practice that we're all engaged in, that we're engaged in right now, right here and now, right? This way of integrating our sensitivity throughout our whole lives. That's what we might call the Noble Eightfold Path. We're all doing that. And it begins by coming in contact with what's difficult, with suffering, or we might say stress or tension, or any kind of feeling in which we feel like, something's off, right? I want to see if I can live a little bit differently. It all begins because we're sensitive to the impact in that moment, right? The heart's intimacy with the way things are right here internally, like, this hurts, right? Just a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of offness or tension is all we really need to start to feel and practice with that. And then once we feel that, then the heart, we start to get curious about, what is this all about? And so the simplicity of the path is really its beauty for me, right? And my mind, I like to keep things simple, right? Because we can start to get all thinky about all the things. And really, it takes us away from this capacity we have, this embodied capacity we have to just feel what's moving. And so we feel that and then we go, this feels like that sense of control. In some way, it feels a little bit like a sense of control, right? I don't like this, or I don't want to be here, or this is hard, it's hard for me, it should be better. And now I start thinking it should be better in these ways, right? So that feeling of constriction is what we might call dukkha, right? And that's the felt sense of the heart that's clinging to wanting more control than we actually have, right? Which is the second noble truth. And then because we felt that, we felt the tension, and we know like, I know that I want to live in such a way that is meaningful, sustaining, that is in alignment with the deepest truths, that is in alignment with my deepest values. And because of that, holding on to something that's always moving doesn't make much sense. And so the heart naturally, because of what we know, because we have decided to be good students, right? Then the heart naturally starts to let go of that clinging. It's not easy because we have to relax with that and trust that these moments are here for all of us, not just for you or me, but for everybody, right? We have these moments, and we have to see these moments as our teacher. So instead of seeing ourselves as, when we come to practice, like, now I'm supposed to be a good meditator, or now I'm supposed to be good at this thing I call practice, or now I'm supposed to be compassionate in all ways, or wise in all ways. Now I'm supposed to be a perfect partner or parent, or I'm supposed to be really fearless and unflappable at my job, right? Instead of having those kind of imaginary moments, we might have real moments in which we start to feel the clinging, the constrictedness, the self-centeredness that really guides our lives in many ways, right? All the time it's doing this. And so waking up because we care about being a student and because we care about learning, right, is so much more important than being good at anything. And so we dare to feel and let suffering guide us, not because we want to wallow in it, but because we care about learning. Like, I want to feel this tension. I want to know how that feels in this moment. I want to know all the subtle ways that this heart really is looking for something to rely on in a sea of moving targets, right? In a sea when life is always moving through us, energies are always moving, everything is always changing, right? The heart is looking for some ground now. I like I said, I just got back, and of course my wife has been nesting in our home for the past 7 weeks without me, and things are different. But I like my dog, her routines are different, you know, like, oh, we're doing it this way now. And I'm like, wait a second, what about the way it used to be? You know? And I've been practicing for 7 weeks. So it's humbling, like how insidious these mechanism of wanting things to be the same are for us, or wanting them to be the way we want them to be, right? And so the Buddha, this offering of a path, is a generous thing, because it really is not meant to be like this thing where he's not trying to say that this is the only way that a human being could be happy, but he's trying to be really pragmatic and say, if we infuse sensitivity from and a movement from the internal to the external, then our life starts to flow in a way in which we can feel more deeply into the way things are, right? We can actually learn to appreciate these ways in which we struggle and the ways in which there's this potential for release in every moment, not just the ones in which we're on the cushion or being a good practitioner by coming to common ground, but actually when the kitchen's been rearranged, right? Something like that. And the Buddha wasn't interested in, you know, like I said, making a statement about anything. He wasn't interested in getting followers. He's not proselytizing. But he's just saying that let's look at what we're doing and why we're doing it and how it all fits together. And to see if there's a possibility of a weaving of wisdom and love through our activities. And in this way, we start to deepen into the path, right? When we mature, it's a way of, we might call this a maturing of practice. That integration is a kind of maturing of practice, right? It's more of like an arc. We might come to practice because we have a sense of, you know, we have a more superficial idea of wanting to be a little less anxious. That was me, right? And then as time goes on, I start to see like, oh, it matters in this moment how I relate to the kitchen being rearranged, right? And I start to see like, oh, the wisdom that's there that goes, oh yeah, sweetie, you were just holding on to the way it was, not the way it is. And is there a way of participating with the way it is that illuminates this possibility of freedom in every moment, in any moment, in this moment? And does it help to get cranky, you know, to express some kind of reactivity or frustration in this moment? Because it's like this. Does that help? Or does that impede the flow of wisdom and love in any way? One of the teachers on the 3-month retreat said, we have a dysfunctional relationship with reality. But seeing that is one thing, right? And participating skillfully with it is another. So think about all the times that we notice this dysfunctional relationship with reality, wanting things to be other than the way that they are, and yet we double down on our ideas about how it should be, right? I mean, I notice this all the time. Like my mind can get a little complainy, right? Oh yeah, I tend to lean towards a little bit more aversion than greed some of the time, and I can easily walk into a place like Common Ground, which I did a couple days ago, and notice all the things that need a little bit of adjusting, right? Instead of just appreciating, like, and then the mind starts to spin in all of these details, instead of just appreciating that, oh yeah, everything is in motion. right? Life is always moving, things are changing. This community is forming and reforming in every moment in such a beautiful way, right? People are coming, people are going. You know, that flow of life, when there's a kind of relaxation or a willingness to be at ease in the flow of life, it feels there's so much more room for appreciation and gratitude, right? But when the mind is tight and constricted around the way it should be and the way it's not, because I have an idea of it how it should be, that there's a feeling of tightness and constriction that puts me in a necessary position of needing to control something, right? But how beautiful it is to be in the middle of the flow of life and to appreciate how things are always moving. One of my teachers, Gil Fronsdal, made a sweet little statement about practice and how our role as practitioners is simply to stay in the gravitational pull towards freedom. It's not to get something or pin it down, like, oh, now I found calm and now I have to keep it. Right? Or now I found a good meditation and I have to recreate that. But it's just to keep pivoting and flexing and moving as conditions are always changing, and to see if that adjusting, right, to see if that way of adjusting to the way things actually are and finding our way to a skillful participation that includes wisdom and love in every moment, if that is a supportive way, to see if that is a supportive way to live our life. And if so, that aligns us with this movement towards freedom. It always aligns with the movement towards freedom, right? In fact, the Buddha said this, like, if we're practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, if we're doing that, then liberation will be a result. You know, maybe not today or tomorrow, maybe, who knows? But we might find that felt sense of freedom if we're just staying on the path, right? Feeling into those places where our path is unfinished, being willing to connect right there, feeling that sense of constrictedness, of craving, being curious about what it means to be a learner, what it means to be a student, how spacious can the heart be, right? So it wasn't a problem to notice, it's not a problem perhaps to notice how things have changed and to feel the tightness, because that movement towards freedom is right next to that. It's not in some other moment, actually, right? That feeling of tension or suffering, that felt sense of dukkha in that moment, you know, right there, when we feel that, the heart knows how to open, like, oh, sweetie, that's not the way, right? Things have changed. Things are changing. It's like this right now. Ah, how beautiful. Like, how beautiful to be in the middle of a sea or a river that's always moving. So sometimes we can get these ideas in our head that, dang it, here I am being judgmental again, or here I am being, you fill in the blank again, right? And somehow that means that we're off the path. But if we pause and feel that, we decide to be sensitive and intimate with the way things are, that felt sense of freedom is lingering for us right there. Yeah, it's not in some other moment when we're a better human being or a different human being. So the Noble Eightfold Path, the fourth of the Four Noble Truths, begins with wise view. So includes an investigation of the views and beliefs and ideas that shape our lives, shape our minds, that contribute to the ways in which we engage in an embodied way, our speech and our actions, right? It's the more subtle form of experience, right? It's the more subtle inner experience to notice our views, right? Our ideas. And our ideas are always flowing towards our intentions, which shape our actions. So we have ideas about things, they support what we might intend to do with our lives, And then we do things, right? With our bodies, we act, we engage, yeah, we participate in an embodied way. We show each other what those ideas and those views are actually about, right? And because in some moments, the expression of humanity among us in the collective and inside of us is a mixed bag, right? Some wisdom, some love, and some delusion, some greed, some hatred, right? It's not that clean all the time. And because it's like that, right, it's really important that we watch, yeah? We look, we learn by seeing how it goes, right? We notice the impact. What's the impact? Oh, I took this action, and what is that like? Or in the world, there's this movement of humanity that includes all of that. What's that like? What does that mean, right? But we're not separating ourselves from one another. We're not going like, oh, that was a bad move, right? But now I'm a practitioner, and I've clarified, and I've aligned my values, and now I make good moves. We go, oh yeah, we care so much about being sensitive. This moment matters. So we take a look at what moves, and we're not afraid to see it. We're not afraid to see that, oh yeah, our actions, our speech is mixed sometimes. Sometimes it's really pure, and sometimes we're speaking out of compassion, and sometimes we're acting out of compassion and kindness and patience and a lot of clarity about being a part of this constantly moving river of life. And other times we're impatient, right? A bit frustrated. We're a bit blamey, right? We want more than we should have, or we want things that aren't ours, or, all of this, it moves through us. And so when we're willing to connect with that felt sense of dukkha, or these moments in our own heart where we're being really honest, radically honest, then we're able to see how we're a part of everything that moves collectively, right? From the internal to the external. There's no real difference because we notice that we're a part of that, right? I notice that when I'm agitated with the placement of objects in the kitchen, and I start to move around in my house, that my actions reflect that internal experience. There's no way around that, right? That energy moves through me, just like it moves through you. And when I take a moment to pause and feel that and realign with the heart that cares about it, right, is willing to connect, now my movements through my life are what's also a part of my movement is love and inclusion. Because I've been willing to include that, now my heart expresses some kind of capacity for care, right? Even with that bit of agitation, right? And we see like, oh, as human beings, this is the beauty of our togetherness. So that statement that the Buddha made about Kalyanamitta being the whole of the holy path, or about being, the totality of the way what's important in our lives as practitioners, is because we're always doing this, we're always breathing like this, right? Taking it in, expressing it out, taking it in, expressing it out. And we have this potential to both model for each other what it means to be human, who knows that and keeps working with that, and what it means to live and breathe in a community where that's being expressed all the time, right? So the good news is that some of us will feel really, will have a lot of capacity in some moments, and others of us won't in some moments, right? And those of us who have great capacity for wisdom and love will express it and hold it down for everybody else in the moments when we're not that strong. And then we'll take our turn of being not that strong, right? And everybody else will hold it down for us. Yeah. There's this wonderful scripture in which a group of people who, they came to the Buddha. I'm just paraphrasing here, of course. And they said something like, we like nice things. We like pretty things. We like things that look good. We like things that smell nice. What do you have to offer us in these teachings. Just ordinary people here, right? And the Buddha didn't chastise them, didn't say you need to go on retreat. Didn't say you need to really get a hold of your mind and give yourself a good talking to. What he said is, if you look around and notice the good among you, you'll find good qualities to emulate, right? You'll model and emulate that for each other. Yeah. You'll look around, you'll see faith, you'll see wise action, you'll see an alignment with what's beautiful and good. You'll see that. And because you're seeing that, it will motivate you, right? It will motivate, you'll take it in, you'll appreciate it, and it will motivate you to keep practicing. And when you do that, your life is aligned, you're in the gravitational pull towards freedom, right? It's no different. It's no different than if you, practiced in a different way. Practicing in community like that is powerful in this way, right? Can be so powerful for us. Yeah, not because we decide to be perfect human beings, but because we're being real and we're a part of what's moving through us by taking a look, by being honest, by listening, by modeling. So you might think back to, could be just today or perhaps earlier in the week, to a time, a moment in which you learned something about what contributes to that sense of freedom, right? And placing yourself in community with one another, what were the contributing forces that led to that feeling, that possibility of freedom in moments for you? And even though I use that kind of funny example about coming home to a house that feels different and a life that feels different, without having my partner there or my four-legged friend there, or without the community of people flowing through common ground, my mind would feel different. If everything were exactly the way I wanted it to be, exactly the way I left it, it would feel different. The learning would be different, wouldn't it? It's in part because of that grit, because of those moments in which things didn't feel exactly right, that freedom became possible, right? So when we think about moments in which we reflect back on what we've learned, just appreciate the grit that's there for us too. So this path, it teaches us really to trust intimacy, to trust sensitivity. Yeah. The only thing, it may feel and sometimes that it's too much or too hard, but the only thing that's actually hard is forgetting. When we forget that this moment matters, that we care about being sensitive, that's when we're just driven by delusion. We're driven by whatever's available to us, and like we've already said, it's a mixed bag in any moment. But when we care about being sensitive, about being intimate, then we're letting the moment guide us based on the conditions that are here right now, right? Not our imagined sense of things, but based on what's here right now. And without that, we're just acting out habit patterns of who knows what. Yeah. So what we're actually doing moment by moment is deciding to learn from our life. Yeah. We notice, we feel the heart sensitivity, and we do the best that we can. Yeah. We understand some about our intentions and what our intentions are and how they're guiding our actions. We understand something about our views and opinions that are in the mix. We understand what we can, and then we have a response. We have an embodied response. We do things, and we talk, and we move around with one another, and we're not done yet, right? We've done the best that we could before we participate, and then while we're participating, we're watching. We're trusting sensitivity. We're trusting intimacy to guide us. And we go, oh yeah, it's like this, right? And now I'm gonna do the best that I can again. And then when we're done acting, when we're done talking in a single moment, then we reflect on how it went, right? We notice the impact. What's that like? What kind of seeds did I just plant in the world and in my life? Did it work? Was it supportive? Is there anything to clean up? Is there any repair that's needed? And so we're always trusting sensitivity before, during, after, all the way through our embodied actions. And that's really what this path is all about, right? Movement from the gross to the subtle, from the internal to the external and back again. It feels like I've had this image in mind for a couple of weeks of an accordion, right? The accordion, the music only plays because of that movement in and out, right? So we feel the internal, we feel the movement to the external and back again, and our path, our life starts to unfold, our values start to become more obvious to us because of that movement, always moving. The Buddha said, or in the scriptures it's said that the Buddha said, practitioners, just as a pot without a stand is easy to tip over, and a pot with a stand is hard to tip over, so too the mind without a stand is easy to tip over, and a mind with a stand is hard to tip over. And what's the mind's stand? Just this noble eightfold path, right? So we can see the path as a skillful means to help us develop the kind of wisdom and love that we want to live with. Not because we're trying to be perfect, but we're always committed to learning something, right? And we keep relying on the deeply integrated fabric of our practice and our lives through our actions, when we cultivate this heart that can be steady enough, the heart that can be steady enough to feel something, right? All of that integration are supports for us to live and stay in the gravitational pull towards freedom. I'll end with a poem that I like from this book called To Bless the Space Between Us. It's John O'Donoghue's, I think, final offering to us before he passed away. It's called For the Time of Necessary Decisions. The mind of time is hard to read. We can never predict what it will bring. Not even from all that is already gone can we say what form it finally takes. For time gathers its moments secretly. Often we only know it's time to change when a force has built inside the heart, that leaves us uneasy as we are. Perhaps the work we do has lost its soul, or the love where we once belonged calls nothing alive in us anymore. We drift through this gray, increasing nowhere until we stand before a threshold we know we have to cross to come alive once more. May we have the courage to take the step into the unknown that beckons us. Trust that a richer life awaits us there, that we will lose nothing but what has already died. Feel the deeper knowing in us, sure of all that is about to be born, beyond the pale frames where we stayed confined, not realizing how much vacant endurance was bleaching our soul's desire. Thanks, Cheryl, for the John O'Donoghue. Yeah. Let's take a moment just to sit together. Thank you for your kind attention today, friends. Participating skillfully in this community that we love. We'll have time for small groups now. If you all want to stay, Lisa will help those who are here get set up in small groups. And I will see if someone here in Zoom land